Hello and welcome back. And today I want to speak on individual freedom, your individual freedom, and freedom as a man, your individual freedom, and why it's very important to preserve that freedom. The individual freedom basically is your freedom to express yourself, to express your inner self. That and that expression should be something that comes from within, and not because you're confined to societal norms. You see, society expect us to, or they expect us to have certain behaviors, to have certain mannerism, and at times we are not in tune with such mannerism. And this is another reason a lot of people actually are depressed, because there's so much expectations from them, there's so much things that society wants from them, but this is not who they are. And that's because at times we allow society, or just people around us, to dictate how we should live, how we should live our lives, how we're supposed to express ourselves. And one trapping of this is, society may trap you into labels. Labels. What do I mean by labels? Labels may be titles, right? CEO, manager, prime minister, even teacher, even father. Right? You are a father. You are. These are titles. Now, not to say these are bad titles. They are. We all know the importance of ministers and prime ministers, the importance of CEOs and managers as leaders in a society, the importance of fathers and daddies, or whatever you call them in society, or how we call them and label them. However, once we are attached to these titles, right, the problem is being attached to these titles. People get too attached to these titles that they now they do not really express the individuality away, their individuality basically away from these titles. And this is a trapping, because now you won't be able to see yourself beyond those titles, right? So even if you're going to express yourself, or you want to express your individual self, right, you put these titles before yourself, right? I'm a CEO, so I'm expected to have such and such, or behave such and such a way. You see, I'm a prime minister, so I'm expected to talk such and such a way, right? So there should be a sort of balance within this, and or at least be able to really express yourself beyond these labels. These labels are what you may get boxed into. You may get boxed into that managerial position. Now that's your new title, that's the title, and now you cannot express yourself away from that title. Each time you want to engage in some sort of a place, or you're in a situation you'd like to express yourself beyond those labels, you are not able, because now you've given that title, or whatever label that has become what you are known for, which it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to move away from that when you want to express yourself differently, because at times, and the main reason for this is because when as we grow as men, as we want to evolve into something else, since we've allowed these titles to confine us, since we've allowed these titles to box us right into whatever that title expects of you, right, it will be tough for you to move away from that, right? For example, I have a friend of mine who for the longest time has been a manager for a certain bank, right? it's been a very a middle, let's say just a middle a middle corporate sort of manager within the ranks, or those ranks. But he now wants to do something else. He says he wants to do something totally different. But then at the same time, those around him, right, they cannot take him seriously, right? Of course, this is a pushback of something. You have to push through that. But because he only labels himself as a sort of top manager, he has all these, he's surrounded by all these items that, and these items and sort of things that points out that he's a manager, he's a top, he's going for the top position and all that. He's unable to express himself differently, you see. And this is another reason at times we understand artists. You see, artists are able to express themselves because they're somewhat free. They are free to express themselves. They are free to do what they want, you see. Though, of course, some artists take things too far, right? And that's why we have all sort of mayhem in the entertainment industry. However, this is because a lot of the time freedom obviously has to come with the ability to discipline. I think I've talked about this before. But all in all is that don't give out your individual freedom, the way you express yourself, the way you are able to speak, because now you are labeled as a CEO, you're labeled as a doctor. Then you're always expecting yourself, you're always expected to behave that way, right? And like I said, this usually will lead to a lot of anxiety. This leads to depression for a lot of people, especially men, because they always have to behave or have to have a certain mannerism that goes against the individual expression. Now, as a man, you have to really be able to express yourself the way you are or the way you want. But of course, this also comes with responsibility and maturity. Just because I'm free to speak the way I want, or because I record this and put them out, I cannot just speak just anyhow. You have to create that discipline. You have to be able to do or know the etiquettes of how you want to express yourself. Now, these labels and these titles are the thing that make us or create attachments. So the whole premises of this, the gist of this video is that move away from these attachments. These attachments are not healthy attachments. If they do not help you express yourself, if they do not make you express your individuality, the thing that is inside of you, then you will be driven by these titles. Wherever you go, you are expected to have a certain mannerism, right? So, and I've seen this because once people take these titles and they label themselves as such a title, their whole demeanor changes. They're not that individual that you once knew, or who they were before they became these titles. So make sure you should watch out for these sort of traps. I call them traps because the society would want you that way, right? Because then now you can they can easily control you, because of course you'll have a familiarity towards society. They know that you are certain thing or a certain title, so now they can easily relate to you. Of course, society wants to relate to you easily, but if that's not you, now I get it. Some people out there, surely that's who they are. They want to be CEOs, they want to be managers, they want to be doctors, and that's because that's who they actually are. From the beginning, they have that thing inside of them that they wanted to be doctors. And such people actually do not really label themselves. They just are who they are. But then there are those who are pushed by society, pushed by family, go and be this, go and do that. You have to be a certain top person in society, so that you please your family, you please your parents, and that's a trapping in itself, because now you'll be working towards, or you'll be moving away from your individual self, your essence. I like to call it the essence. Once that is gone, then that's when things like depression moves in, things like anxiety, even mental illness. Mental illness also is exacerbated by such things, because your inner self and your outer selves are not intertwined. They're not they do not really they're not able to integrate, right? Because it's not you. You're not the title, and you know it. You're not the title. You're not. You do not feel like you want to be a doctor, but because you want to really impress society, you want to please your parents, you go out and get that medical degree, which is nothing wrong. But if that's not you, I know plenty of people who have dropped out from medical school, even in their 5th year, because they get to understand that it's not for them. They rather do something else, something different, something that they love, and they're doing well because they're expressing themselves with, however, even if it's just being creative. And they say, for example, a guy that I know, a friend of mine that I went to school with, right? He dropped out in the 4th year of medical school, and he had an opportunity to actually go abroad, and he could have got a lot of money by just there's a certain company that wanted him as a doctor, because he had done some sort of an intern with someone, and he got connection abroad, and he could have got a very, very high salary. But on his 4th year, he said, no, I'm not going to do this. Why? Because it's not me. I'm just doing it, first of all, so that I can make my parents happy. But then again, how am I going to express myself? How am I going to be happy? And this is not to be selfish, but this is just to preserve your individual self, making sure that you are happy first before others are happy. And once you are happy yourself first, right, then others should be happy for you. If they are not, then they really do not have their best interest. So my friend, the guy who was supposed to be a doctor, he dropped out and he started a creative company, right, where he's doing his own thing. Now he's not even getting half the money that he was supposed to get. Rather, he was going to get paid in dollars and all that. The money he's getting is enough for him, but you can see that he's actually very, very much satisfied. He's very happy with what he's doing. He wakes up very excited for the opportunity that he's undertaking. Why? Because he preserved what he had inside, and he decided to pursue that instead of pursuing things that would impress others, instead of pursuing a title of doctor that would impress his parents. So he had to disappoint his parents at the time, but now even his own parents are getting to understand him and starting to like what he's becoming and what he is doing. So preserve that freedom. That freedom of expression is very important, especially now, right? That things for men are getting tough. Things are not always going the way we want to. However, the way that we express ourselves, the way we are able to express our individual self, that's true freedom. That's freedom in itself. There's no need to try and make society or others happy if we ourselves aren't happy, because happiness usually starts with us, then it goes. Others will also be happy for us. So preserve that individual freedom. Make sure you're not attached to certain labels. Make sure you're not attached to titles, right? If if you decide to undertake these titles, make sure that you embody them because you like them. That's who you are. You can look at other people who become CEOs, who become managers, but you see that that's who they are. They embody that's who they are meant to be. Now, you don't look at them and think to yourself, that's what I want to be, when deep inside it's not who you are. Right? What you'll be doing, you'll be chasing titles because you see the guy being labeled as a CEO, and he goes out there and is making a lot of money, which is good, but then don't think it's that easy. You're chasing titles, and then once you start chasing titles, you're moving away from your individual freedom, right? You won't be able to express the real you. You'll be expressing or taking the role of the title, which in the first place is not something who you are. So it was just something I was contemplating on, and I hope that one was understood and it is helpful. And for now, thank you and peace.